Everyone, welcome to the Pulse 365, or actually Microsoft 365 Pulse Roadmap webcast. One of
There we
these
go.
days I'll get all those words right in the right order. We do a weekly webcast where we review the Microsoft roadmap so you don't have to, and we give you a brief overview of all the new stuff that's coming in. So let's go ahead and get started here. We'll go with the normal routine of in development, which says Microsoft is back there working on it, and the intention is it's going to get moved out at some point. And then it moves to rolling out, which means it's starting to make its way out to the tenants of the targeted areas. So DoD, GCC, worldwide, whatever. It's making its way out. Then you get launched, which means in theory, everybody who is targeted for that should have it by that point. And occasionally we have some cancellations. I believe we have one this week.
Yep.
And sometimes those are like, hey, we decided we don't want to do this, or hey, this is a duplicate, we're cleaning up, but we'll go over those when we come in. So by default, and hand raised that I didn't had any say about, I'm going to get started because Tamara needs to look at the list first. So I'm going to go
You weren't
ahead.
supposed to say that.
I'm
Hey,
sorry.
you're not supposed to out her like that, Tom. Come on now.
Well, she's not close enough right now, so I don't get in trouble
Sure.
for
So you're not
it.
getting anything thrown at you, so you're safe for a little bit.
No, but I'm going to look at you like this.
Oh, okay. I'm in trouble. And for those of you who don't know, Tamara and I are married, so yes, this is a big deal. So let's go ahead and get started here. Microsoft Teams, automatic lowering of a user's raised hands after speaking. I kind of like this because usually I do it manual because the person who raised their hand usually doesn't remember to lower it. But this is to reduce the number of stale raised hands in meetings. We will now suggest users to lower their raised hands after we detect that they spoke. They will be able to choose to keep the hand raised. If the user doesn't take any action on the suggestion notification, we'll automatically lower their hand. This should ensure smoother meeting facilitation for organizers and presenters. This is going out across the board, should be out in March of next year. Like I say, I really like this idea. I think this is a really nice thing to keep your meeting going and not have to go, did I get you already? You know, especially if you have a number of hands being raised. The other one that I'll also mention before I turn it over to Tamara is SharePoint, external file request in SharePoint document libraries. So the description of this is, with the file request feature in SharePoint document library, you can choose a folder where others can upload files using a link that you send them. People you request files from can only upload files. They can't see the content of the folder, edit, delete, or download files, or even see who else has uploaded files. This is something I think they tried to do like a year or two ago, because I remember thinking, oh, this is kind of a cool thing. And then I believe it got canceled for some reason. It appears that it's coming back. The only thing that confuses me just a little bit on this, but they say external file request in SharePoint. When I think of external, I'm thinking external guest users. I don't think that's the case here because when you look at the target rollout, it's to worldwide GCC, GCC High, and DoD. And I can't see those last three tenants being thrilled to have people submitting external files into the environment. They're usually much more locked down.
They need that functionality.
They need it. And it may be truly external people, but I'm just thinking it's an external file request in terms of they may not be the people who are actually part of the SharePoint site. So we'll see, but that's due for January, and we'll see what it looks like when it comes out. So Tamara, you want to cover anything?
All right, Microsoft Teams bots and message extensions in DoD. So DoD customers are able to build and deploy bots and message extensions in their Microsoft Teams environment. This release supports custom inline of business bots. So that's coming out in March of 2023. People are going to be so excited about that. Also, team chat from Outlook meetings. This feature provides an easy Teams chat experience from Outlook in the context of a meeting for participants to send a quick message or review the chat. Then the other thing I'm really excited about is OneNote. Meeting notes in OneNote. Every Teams meeting now comes with a collaborative OneNote canvas. Create notes from the Teams calendar or during a meeting. You can easily recall your notes and manage your tasks directly from OneNote. That is so much better than the actual native meeting notes in Teams, which is only available to the first 100 people who are in the meeting. So, and that comes in March of 2023, and that is rolling out to worldwide and GCC.
Or you can combine that with one of my favorite OneNote features too. If
What's that?
you're actually in the desktop client of OneNote and you look at the home tab, and the top right, they'll have two different things you can do. One is called meeting details, and you can go in there and click on that, and it'll actually import in like the invite list and any notes or anything like that, which is great. And then
the attendee list.
Yeah, and then right next to it is email page, and if you click on that, it will take the attendee list from the meeting details that you imported, automatically add them to the to field in the email, and just move the notes from the whole page of OneNote in there. And so it's absolutely incredible. Every time I do a OneNote session at a conference, I talk about this because it's my favorite thing. But all of us have been in the situation before, I'm sure, where it's like you go to a meeting and you're asked to take notes, and then you go to outside and you're like, all right, well, it's just an hour meeting. Now I need to take an hour to type up these notes and format them and make them look good and send it to everyone else. And if you get used to using this, it literally gives you the ability to take notes while you're in the meeting, and then before you walk out of the meeting, just send it out to everyone that was in there. It's absolutely great. And I can see this pairing super well with automatically having a OneNote tab for meetings that you're going in and doing. If you then go through and say, all right, cool, I'm going to send everyone the notes from this, it's one button and you're just good.
Exactly.
Nice. The last thing I wanted to touch on before we move forward is Planner. So in GCC High and in DoD, if you assign somebody a task in Planner, they do not get a notification that they have been assigned a task. Microsoft is making that happen in February. I'm so excited. So email notification for GCC High for Planner. That means task email notifications for GCC High aims at bringing existing Planner email notifications to customers in GCC High. The two main categories are assignment email notifications and the due date digest email notifications. I'm so excited because that means DoD is right around the corner. That's all I wanted to talk about, but it was a lot.
Yes. Adam, what do you have on your list?
Yeah, there's a couple nerdy things that I thought were kind of cool that were added in that I'll go ahead and highlight. Specifically, two that kind of jumped out to me that I think are worthy of discussion. First and foremost, Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal, data loss prevention, protect files on remote map network devices. So I actually think this is probably a new feature that's coming out for Endpoint DLP. Endpoint DLP is a program or an application that was released in the last year or two from Microsoft that basically brings the idea of protecting sensitive documents and potentially doing data loss prevention around them down to people's actual computer. Think of this as like Intune a little bit more on crack. You've been able to do DLP for forever in Office 365 and say like, oh, I want to look at the emails that are going out or the files that are going out and see if there's a credit card there. Or Microsoft expanded that where companies can go through and just say, well, I'm just curious what's on my user's computer. I want to go through and see if they have documents that are sitting there that have credit cards and stuff like that. So this new feature that they announced on the roadmap is protect files on, like I said, remote and map network drives. Previously, you've only been able to do this onto file shares that you have. There was a specific feature inside of what used to be Cloud App Security, or what's now Defender for Cloud Apps, that you could kind of do this on network shares through a system called File Plan. But that was a feature completely separate from Endpoint DLP. It functioned a little bit different. You had to go in and get an AIP scanner to get this to do. It was a lot of work. So to go through and to get that actually going through and working, plus you had to have the licensing for Defender for Cloud. So like seeing this update, it's essentially going to allow people to go through and extend out to stuff like remote drives and stuff they have on their computer. So it's cool to see, and cool to see that functionality continue to be developed. Then the other one that I wanted to mention, I think is actually really cool. I don't know a ton of the details about this right now, but I like in theory what it sounds like. It's a new Intune update. They're calling it Microsoft Tunnel Mobile Application Management. So this is going to be a lightweight VPN solution that will allow secure access to on-premise resources resources for iOS and mobile devices that don't require device enrollment. So one of the unique things that Intune's done for a long time now is you can either do mobile device management, which is like the full-on company owns your device, you're doing everything, but then they can also remote wipe it. And then specifically for customers that don't do, purchase phones for their company, they've always done what they call mobile application management, which allows you to protect your company data on applications, but not like wipe the whole phone. This sounds like a new update that's coming out that's going to be specifically designed for that, bring your own device scenario where users have their own phones, but you want to allow them access to secure resources. You'll basically be able to get a lightweight VPN directly into your phone to go through and access it. Where I really see this as a big win, the only companies right now that you would work with that would have a VPN, especially a VPN for like mobile devices, are going to be your large enterprise organizations. And having the infrastructure to go in and set that up and everything that's needed is something that was a pretty big lift and a pretty big cost. Microsoft doing this, I see as a very egalitarian move and something that's going to really allow a lot smaller companies to get a secure way to access resources that they have on their on-premise network that they probably didn't have previously. So I actually think this is really cool, and I actually think that the ability to go through and offer this and access this is something that is potentially going to be used by a lot of companies that care about compliance and security.
Cool. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover, Tamara?
Nope, I'm good.
We'll go ahead then and move on to rolling out. I'll go ahead and start with Microsoft Teams expanded reactions. So this may be in a client near you. It just basically hit our tenant over the last week or so. But expanded reactions allows users to apply any emoji as a reaction to chat messages. Pick from over 800 Teams emojis to react the way you want. I actually wrote a 1-minute Office Magic tip on this one yesterday and published it. But basically, if you're in a chat and you go to click on, or you go to hover over the chat item, you now have this little icon at the end, which is like a outline of a smiley face. It's got a little plus on it. When you click plus, it brings up the palette that has all 800 emoji on it, and you can go through. I responded one that was like, somebody said, yeah, it looks like we got an inch or two of snow. And I was like, oh, I will go ahead and put a snowflake one on there, which was kind of cool. Some people were like, I don't need 800 emoji. How come we're doing this? Well, because Microsoft can do what they want. So if you go in there and you see the reaction bar there and it looks slightly different with a little emoji with a plus symbol on it, go ahead and click that and you'll have a lot more to choose from. And that went to everybody. GCC, GCC High OD, GCC High DOD, and worldwide. So, Tamara.
And I think it also adds a lot of diversity to the emoticons.
I was looking for that yesterday and didn't see what I expected to see. When I was looking at some of the people ones, I expected to see the little plus that I could click on and then have it show the different skin tones. I may have just missed that though, but I know that was when they went to the whole fluent emoji thing. I was first like, why are you doing this? And then when somebody pointed that out, I'm like, okay, I get it now. Diversity is important. Okay.
Yep.
So that could be on there too. Go ahead, Tamara.
Oh, seriously? You're just going to take the one?
I'm just going to take the one because I really only had a couple things highlighted in here, and I didn't want to take both the ones I thought you might talk about.
I got lots.
Go for it.
Microsoft Teams webinar updated template with enhanced setup experience. So the updated webinar template with a new layout and expanded options to customize registration details and settings specific to the event. This is rolling out December of this year, and it's rolling out worldwide and GCC. And then also Microsoft Teams sign language view and always on captions in meetings. So prioritize up to 2 participants' videos for sign language in meetings so they stay visible even while content is shared, and then set captions to stay on across all meetings. I
think that is such a cool one.
This option, because the captions are great, not only if you're hard of hearing, but if English is not your first language and the meeting is taking place in English. This is great. And then also Microsoft Teams got some love on Android and iOS for the government clouds, and that is view attendance report on Microsoft Teams, and also view meeting transcripts on Microsoft Teams on both the Android and the iOS. And then language interpretation for GCC High and DoD. The language interpretation is now going to allow language interpreters to translate what the speaker says into another language in real time without disrupting the original flow of delivery of the speaker. This will allow for more inclusive meetings where participants who may not speak the same language can fully collaborate with each other. That's very exciting. That's coming out to GCC High and DoD. So those are the ones that excited me.
Adam, what do you have on your list that you'd like to mention?
Tamara talked about the ones that I was interested in, so we can move on.
Okay, so with that, we will go.
The whole time.
You really kind of did, you know. We will go ahead and roll into launched, and I will hand this over to Tamara because, quite honestly, I looked at everything here. It's like purview. So, Adam, would you like to talk about launched and purview then?
Yes, there's a lot of compliance features that are going through as launched, as Tom and Tam are laughing about. There's several that we've already talked about at times in some of our previous updates, but some of the ones that I think are kind of nice. Data purge capabilities for Microsoft Teams content. So you'll basically have the ability to go in and extend data purge functionality to Teams content to facilitate the purge of sensitive or misplaced data. So the idea of, okay, something's got uploaded into Teams, but you actually don't want that in your repository. Sometimes, for instance, I've worked with customers that have legal obligations to not store stuff after a certain period of time. Like they will have a contractual obligation that says they won't store any information after X amount of time or X amount of years. And so they are literally contractually obligated to go through and make sure they're not storing it. Well, what happens if you have a retention period set tenant-wide that's 7 years, and then someone goes in and uploads a file somewhere in Teams, but you're not allowed to keep that after more than 2 years? Well, the only real way to do that is either turning off your retention period, which you don't want to do, because then you would, lose other stuff that you probably are wanting to restore, or potentially go through the option of doing purges. Well, previously, you actually couldn't go in and purge stuff out of Teams. You only had that ability to do it in Exchange and in SharePoint. So going through and having that capability being added in is nice to see, and something going through that. Microsoft 365 Admin Center targeted release. The idea that there's basically going to be targeted releases for GCC, GCC High, and DoD customers that will basically go in and give them access to OneDrive for Business, SharePoint Online, and Outlook for the Web Admin Center features. So this is basically just a generic update of new features that they've done in commercial a while ago, being updated in the admin centers of the government suites. This is nice. I'm sure Tamara feels this one with me too. It's a crapshoot whether or not features are going to necessarily look one way or the other. I work with a lot of government customers, and so I'll go from commercial tenants to GCC to GCC High to DoD, and like half the time we were going through and looking for a feature, you have to open up like 3 admin centers because you have no idea where they're at in the release cycle. So maybe it's in the Exchange admin center, or maybe it's in the security one, or maybe it's in the compliance one, or maybe it's in the security and compliance one, which is different than both the security and the compliance one. And that's just kind of how it works. It's always interesting going through that. So it's nice to see them going through and updating and hopefully giving a more consistent experience to some of the government customers. So excited to see that coming through.
So we only have one item that's canceled, and it's Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, Microsoft Purview, eDiscovery Premium hold reports for U.S. government clouds. Basically, at the very end, it says, this feature will be removed from the roadmap. It is as it is covered. Actually, they have as it is covered by a different one out there. So this is a case where the cancellation really doesn't affect anything because it's just a cleanup of, in effect, duplicate items out there. And with that, that pretty much covers our roadmap for this week. We thank you very much for joining us, and all things considered, we hopefully will be back next week, and we will give you your Christmas week edition of the roadmap. So with that, everybody have a great rest of your week, and stay warm, stay dry, stay cool if you're in the South, and we will talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye now.